Mr. This is again in another video on a couple concept of geometry that are very significant. No matter what you do in geometry, those two concepts you can find them inside out from chapter 1 to the last chapter. Those two concepts almost always come in pairs, almost certain. If you have two lines or two segments that intersect, those two concepts will present. So whenever you have two lines that are intersect in geometry, you will face those two concepts, which are vertical angles and linear pair. Vertical angles are said to be two angles are vertical if their sides form two opposite ways. Two angles are vertical if their sides form two pairs of opposite ways. So remember that the definition is important, but is the pair of angles that are vertical, you will have to identify that as significant. So vertical angles are always congruent. Vertical angles are always congruent. Congruent means two things that are the same, two things that are equivalent. So if you have two lines that are intersect, you have to always identify the angles that are vertical. If they are vertical, you have to set them equal to each other. That will be your equation. Then you will have to solve, find the variable, and most of the time replace the variable to find the measure of the angle. So vice versa. Let's look at figure 1, where you have two lines that intersect at the intersections. So in this case, angle 2 and angle 3 are vertical, 2 and 3 are vertical, 1 and 4 are vertical, meaning that whatever the expression for angle 3, you must set it equal to the expression of angle 2, then that's the equation. You will have to solve to find the missing variable. Or the other way around, the expression of angle 1, of measure of angle 1, whatever the expression is, you have to set it equal to the expression of angle 4. So those super angles are vertical. Linear is a pair of angles that sum up to 180. This is when you use the entire line, 180. Remember that you will know that in geometry, you have different type of angle. One of the angle you will deal, or the largest angle you can deal with in geometry, is a straight angle, which is equivalent to 180. A straight angle is 180. So whenever you have two lines that intersect, you will have multiple pair of vertical angle, a multiple pair of linear pair. You have to make difference between those two concepts. For example, we said earlier, angle 3 and angle 2 are vertical. They are equal to each other. Angle 1 and angle 4 are vertical. They are equal to each other. Vertical angles are always congruent. For linear pair, the definition for linear pair is two adjacent angles that are a linear pair if their non-common side are opposite ways. Again, two adjacent angles are a linear pair if their non-common side are opposite way. Right? For linear pair, linear is a line, pair means two. You have two angles that share a common side, in this case, a common side, then those two angles, if you combine them, you will have a straight angle. So since you already know a straight angle is 180, if I take the measure of angle 5 plus the measure of angle 6, they will add up to 180. That's what linear means. Line, two angles form a line that form 180 degrees. Right? Linear. The keyword you see linear, line. Since it's a linear pair, it's two angles that are linear will form a line. They will add up to 180. So linear pair are supplementary. Linear pair are supplementary. That's a definition that you need to know. You will see common. All right. Linear pair are supplementary. Supplementary angles are two angles if the sum of the measure is 180. Right. Linear are supplementary. Right. Linear are supplementary. However, vertical are congruent. You have to make the distinction between these two. Right? Vertical are congruent, they equal to each other. Linear pair will add up to 180. Two angles whose sum of the measures is 180. All right, let's go back to figure 1 again. All right? Figure 1. Angle 2 and angle 3 are vertical. They are opposite to each other. Vertical angle are congruent. If they're facing each other, it's like a scissors. The way I usually identify vertical angle, if these two angles can face each other, they are vertical. Those are vertical. Linear, to be linear, it has to be on the same line. You have to use the two angles that in the line. See, there are many ways you can do that. If I take angle 1 and angle 2, I'm using this entire line. They will add up to 180. In this case, measure of angle 1 plus measure of angle 2 is 180. There are other combination. If I take angle 3, let me use a different color. If I take angle 3, measure of angle 3, right, plus this angle will be equal to 180. Measure of angle 3 plus measure of angle 4 is 180. The entire line. Right? I could have said angle 2 plus angle 4 is 180. I'm using this line. Right? There are many ways. Angle 3 plus angle 1 is 180. Right? However, if they are facing each other, they are vertical. If they are facing each other, they are vertical. Vertical angles are congruent. They equal to each other. So those are the two concepts you will see very often in geometry. So whenever you have multiple lines that intersect, always looking the easiest one out. Vertical and linear. You're going to see that throughout of chapter of geometry. So at least when you have two lines or two segments that intersect, they meet at the common point. You will have pair of vertical angle and we will have plenty of linear pair, right? Linear pair. So two angles, sum is 180, right? When you use the entire line. Remember, this is a straight angle. That will be the largest angle you can find in geometry. If you use the entire line, so it has to be added up to 180. And remember the concept, supplementary. Two angles whose sum of their measure is 180. Right? Don't confuse supplementary with complementary, as you will know that complementary are two angles whose sum of their measure is 90 degrees. So those are two words that gonna confuse you. So you have to keep your head above the shoulder to make the distinction between those two words earlier in the chapter, right? In geometry, because you're gonna see them a lot. Right? Those are the easy questions you will have to get if when you're taking your test. Linear pair, vertical angle. You will see a lot of vertical angle. That will be the easiest angle to identify in linear pair. So when you move forward, so remember those key terms: linear pair, vertical angle. All right, let's recap. So we have vertical angles. So when you have multiple lines that intersect, so think of scissors or NX. So vertical angle will be, your vertical angle will be opposite to each other. They will be face each other. If you can do a pen or a pencil, if they cross off each other, you have to let them equal. That's your equation. So if that was, it doesn't matter, it's two numbers or expression, 2x minus 10, and this is 5x plus 50. So since measure of angle 2 is equal to measure of angle 3, so you have to let those two equations, 2x minus 10 is equal to 5x plus 50. That's our equation. Now you have to solve for it, right? So since you will know from algebra 1, from prior knowledge, so you need to know how to solve equation with variable on both sides, which is one of the concepts you're going to see the most also in geometry. So know how to solve. Geometry is one of the easiest course. If you understand the concept, if you learn your definition, if you learn your theorems, those are the ones that are going to challenge in geometry. The definition, the theorems, and the formulas. You have to recall them. So geometry is an easy course. As long as you know how to solve an equation with variable on both sides, that will be the minimum thing you need in geometry. Know how to solve the equation with variable on both sides. Equation with variable on both sides. As compared to algebra 1. Algebra 1 mostly give you the equation, then you have to solve for it. Whereas in geometry, where you are giving a definition, where you are giving a concept, a word, a concept, you have to generate your equation in geometry. First, you generate your equation. Second, you solve the equation. And most likely, third, use substitution to answer based what is being asked of you. So remember that in geometry, it is an easy course. It's about learning your definition. Linear pair and vertical angles are two of the most important concepts you're gonna first inside out in geometry. You're gonna see that almost every chapter to refresh your memory, because that two concepts that come in geometry. As we said earlier, vertical angles are two set of angles, mainly that form when you have two lines or two ways or two segments that intersect. Either they make X or scissors, right? X or scissors. The technique I use to identify vertical angles are the following. If I have a pen or a pencil, I do this. If whatever the two expressions that face each other from the X, and I will set them as vertical angle. I will set the two expressions equal. In this case, there is no expression on those two part of the X, so I just leave it. I go on the other side. If I can do this, I can see those two things opposite to each other, they facing each other. Then I will set them as vertical angle. Vertical angle always congruent. Since they always congruent, I will take that expression, which is 5x minus 2, congruent means equal. Then I have to set it equal to the other expression, which is 78. There you go, my friend. The equation is created for you. So now the only thing you have to do is to solve it. Geometry is a concept. If you understand the concept, you will be able to set your equation. If you set your equation correctly, you are most likely to get to the right answer as long as you solve correctly. In this case, our objective in this case is to get x by itself. So we have a 5x, we have a negative 2. After the x, we have to get rid of it. In order to get rid of it, we have to do the opposite additive inverse. In this case, we'll add a positive 2 on its side. Then this will cancel, my friend. You will end up with 5x is equals 78 plus 2. 78 plus 2 is 80. Now, your goal is to have the coefficient of x as a 1, as a positive 1 as possible. So the 5 has to go. This 5x is multiplication. I have to introduce a opposite concept of multiplication. The opposite operation of multiplication is division. Therefore, I have to divide both sides by 5. You always do the inverse operation. Now you will end up, this 5 goes with that 5. So your goal was to have x as a coefficient of 1. There's an invisible 1. Then you're done with your x. Now you have to do the operation. Because at this time, don't use calculator. You need to challenge yourself. You already have a calculator built in your brain. So ask yourself how many times this 5 goes through it. 1 time. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 take away 8 is 3. Bring down the 0. Then you divide by 5. Ask yourself how many times this 5 goes through 30 is 6 times. Then x is 16 degrees. Alright, then you're done. So let's look at problem number 2, which is kind of different. So earlier, those two were facing each other. If I go here, I have 6x plus 19, but on the other side I have nothing. So I don't have a pair of angles that facing each other. So I will pass that. When I go here, I have x, but on this side I have nothing. So I don't have a pair of vertical angles. So you have to think the other way. The other way is that x, that expression x, and that expression 6x plus 19, they are on this line. Since both of two expressions are on the same side on the line, remember this makes up a straight angle. Straight angle is 80. Therefore, those two angles are linear. Those two expressions are linear. They add up to 180. They are supplementary. Since they are on the same side of the line, I cannot use the vertical concept. I have to use the linear concept. The linear concept says if the two expressions are on the same side of the line, they must be added up to 180. Therefore, I will have x plus 6x plus 19. They cannot equal to each other. They are on the same side. They have equal to 180. In this case, they are supplementary. That's our equation, my friend. Now, we have to, your goal is to get the equation. Once you get the equation, most likely, you will be able to get the answer. So remember, this is an invisible one. For those of you who have to put that so you can see. Now you have 1x plus 6x. Those are like terms. This will give you 7x. Bring down the 19 and bring down your equal sign. This is your equation simplified. So remember is to get x by itself. There's a 7x, there's a 19. The 19 has to go. Since it's positive 19, you have to do the inverse. You have to subtract 19 from each side. Then you will have 7x. This 19 will cancel with that. And you subtract 19 from 180. That would be 1. 2 from 86. When we're on the 1. 19 subtract from 180 is 161. And your goal is to get rid of the coefficient 7. Since it's all multiplication, you have to divide by 7. Once again, if you don't have calculator, don't freak out. Ask yourself how many times there's 7 goes to 16. There are two times. 2 times 7 is 14. Subtract 14 from 16 is 2. Bring down your 1 and divide by 7. How many times there's 7 goes to 21 is 3 times. In this case, x is 21 degrees. So let's do some verification. So since I know x is 23 degrees, I can come here, replace this as 23 degrees. This is the value of x because it's only one x. Remember, those two pair of angles were supposed to add up to 180. So the easiest way to find what 6x plus 19 is 180 take away 23. If you do everything correctly, then you will have 3 from 10 is 7, bring down 1 3 from 8 is 5, and that will be 157. Or if you're not sure, you come here, you take 6 times 23 plus 19, it must be equal to 157. All right, 6 times 3 is 18, carry 1. All right, 6 times 2 is 12, 12 plus 1 is 13. Now you will have 138 plus 19. If you take 138, you add 19 to it. This will give you 17. Bring down 1, carry 1, 4, 5, and as you can see, it's 57 degrees. See, 57, 157 plus 23, at 10, 6, 8. See, those two angles add up to 180. That's one way you can verify your work if you're not confident at this time. All right, let's look at number 3. This is kind of more challenging. All right, this number 3, you have expression everywhere. Every angle is being filled as an expression. Therefore, you need to keep your head above your full shoulder. In this case, we have multiple variables. We have y, we have x. It's very confusing. So you have to stay calm and figure it out. So if I come here, I want to first try to look for a vertical angle. If I do this step, those two expressions will be equal, then I will have to deal with two different variables. This is very tough. We have not teach us yet. Try to stay away from things like that when you have two different variables to solve with. That will be very difficult. In this case, you will have to use substitution elimination, which is a concept we have not taught. If you do this here, again, those two expressions should have been equal to each other. In this case, but I have x and y. I don't want to get involved with x and y. I want to get involved x with x, y with y. So we will avoid to use vertical concept. Let's look at linear concept in this case. If I take this angle here, that has y minus 12, and this angle here, that has 3y minus 8. When I do this, use my tool, I will see that they are the same side of this line. And you remember that line is a straight angle. So those two angles form this line. Therefore, you have no choice but to use linear concept. So we're going to take those two expressions, y minus 12 plus 3y minus 8, that cannot be equal to each other. They have to be equal to 180. So those have to be linear. So that's the equation. Now, your next goal is to solve for equations. Since you write your equation down, then you will have 1y plus 3y is 4y, minus 12 minus 8 is minus 20, is equal to 180. Add 20 on each side. You will have 4y is equal to 200. Divide by 4. You will have y equal, how many times there's 4 goes to 20, 5 times, bring down the 0, y is 50 degrees. So since I know y, then I can have those two expressions equal to each other. Y minus 12 is equal to x minus 20. Right? The reason I'm doing that is because I know the value of y. I can use vertical. Right? Then I will have y, which is 50 minus 12 is equal to x minus 20. Right? 50 minus 12 is what? 38 equal to x minus 20. Add 20 on this side. Then I will have 2x is equal to 58. Divide both sides by 2. And I will have x. How many times does 2 goes to 5? 2 times. 2 times 2, 4. 4 take away 5 is 1. Now only 8 divided by 2. 2 goes to 18. 9 times. In this case, x will be 29 degrees. All right. So be aware of that. So this is concept of geometry, my friend. So that's how you deal with this kind of problem. Let's then continue on vertical angle and linear. So look at number 5. So like we said earlier, so vertical angle usually an X or a scissors. So if you can use your pen, the two angles are facing each other or opposite to each other, you will identify them as opposite angle. But if you do this and the two angles on the same side of the line, they will be linear pair. That's when they will add up to 180. In this case, since I see them not on the same side of the line, they are facing each other, I can identify them as vertical angle. They have to be equal to each other. So whatever that expression is, which is 3x plus 20, should be equal to 5x minus 50. Now the only thing that I have to do is solve for x. Once I know x, I can find the measure of each angle, even though they don't ask for the value of each angle. So we can do that because sooner or later they're going to ask for that. In this case, I will have to subtract 3x from each side. So I will end up with 20, this cancel with that, equal to x minus 50. Since I know that I need to get x by itself, I will have to add 50 on each side. So I will end up that 70 equal to x. So I will have to divide by 2. So as you know that 2 goes to 70 35 times. In this case, x is 35 degrees. So if I come here, replace 3 times 35 plus 20, 3 times 5 is 15, carry on, 3 times 3 is 9, 9 plus 1 is 10, that 3 times 35 is 105, plus 20. This angle itself will be 125 degrees. And you have to know this has to be 125 degrees also. If I take 5 times 35 and take away 50 from that, say 5 times 5 is 25, carry 2. 5 times 3 is 15 plus 3 is 17. If I take 175 minus 50 from it, that will be 125. As you can see, 125 is equal to 125. As we know, if this is 125, those would have been added up to 180. You will have to take 180 minus 125 from it. Right? This will give you what left over is about 55 degrees. That will be 5 e from 5 is this will give you 55 degrees. So we were not asked that, but you know that those two have to add up to 180. So in this case, number 5, they give you different scenarios, 2 variables, x and y. So let's see which one is easier to solve for. In this case, it will be easier to solve for x. If I do this, this will be linear, but where I have y and x, I don't want that. If I do this, that will be linear, that will be x and y. So when I look it this way, I can see those two angles face each other, they are opposite, they're on the opposite side. I can identify them as vertical angles, so they will have to be equal to each other. So I'll have 6x equal 4x plus 16. Easy to solve. So subtract 4x on each side. Then you will end up 2x is equal to 16 divided by 2. In this case, x is 8 degrees. Since I know x is 8 degrees, I can come here, do 6 times 8. This will give 48 degrees. If this is 48, those two have to be added up to 180. Easily, I can say 180 minus 48 will give you that. But if you don't know that, if you don't see that easy, I could have said 6x plus 11y is equal to 180. Because they are on the same side of the line, they have to be equal to each other. Or 11y plus 4x plus 16 is equal to 180. I already know what x is. X is 8. 6 times 8 is 48. We'll end up with 48 plus 11y is equal to 180. I will have to subtract 48 from each side. So I will end up with 11y equal. That will give you 132. And you will ask yourself how many times there's 11 goes to 132. I believe it's 12 times. Not sure. How many times there's 11 goes to 13? How many times 11 goes to 13? One time. 1 time 11 is 11. 11 take away 13 is the 2. I will have 22 over 11. 11 goes to 22 2 times. This case y is 12 degrees. All right. So again, if I use this as variable, I will have two different variables. In this case, I will have to use linear pair. This angle and that angle, they have to be added up to 180. 2y plus 28, 4y plus 26 is equal to 180. Combine like time, you will have 6y plus 54 equal 180. Subtract 54 from each side, you will have 6y. 54 from 180, that will be 6. 6 from 8 is 2. 126 divided by 2. Now ask yourself how many times there's 6 goes to 12 2 times. 2 times 6 is 12. Take away 6 goes to 6 1 time. Therefore y is 21 degrees. So if I don't want to go